appreciated. The shift over to this mode is also appreciated, and I think our students will benefit from it for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So I was going to say my report would be what they said, because there are some really great things going on. I'm excited about tonight. I know the board is as well. We're always excited. We're able to get these very thick recommendations on tenure and to go through those and see the rigor that people go through to attain tenure. And for people, I don't know what year it impacts, they're moving from a 3-year to a 4-year piece, right? But very exciting times, and I know it's exciting for the people who are receiving it. Also, putting the final approval on a budget that is a budget that allows Shenendehowa to sustain itself and to make some tweaks and to strengthen areas where we need to, and it's an opportunity budget, especially following a budget last year where we added 18.5 positions, and we're filling in those places where we've heard that there are kids who have been disenrolled or we've got some special needs, and we're able to do that with this budget. And lastly, we're never excited. I don't think people on the outside, Bob, even talking about grading policies, are excited about report cards unless a kid has seen them before they go home. But we're also approving a report card tonight, our report card on our compliance with the tax cap, and we're in compliance, and we're in great shape, and so that's exciting time. So good news tonight, I think, all the way around, and we'll move right into public comments. We have students who are going to come forward, and we'll invite them to come forward now while I give the kind of the preamble for any residents who'd like to follow. It's an opportunity for the public to address the Board of Education. If there are any residents in attendance who would like to comment, we have a new opportunity for you. We've provided a comment form at the back. We've heard from some people that they don't necessarily feel comfortable coming up to the mic, but they do have a question they'd like to ask us, or they'd like to make a comment on something. So you're welcome to use the comment form to give us your name and address so we can respond. But also, if you just have a question or comment you want us to respond to, you can fill that out and bring it up front. We'll take care of that as well. The board reminds residents the public comment portion of our meeting is only one item in a long agenda. We therefore ask each speaker to be succinct as possible and that remarks be limited to 2 to 3 minutes. We also expect the residents speak in a respectful and courteous tone so as to model proper civility and decorum for our students, and we promise to do the same. Residents may contact the board also via email at boe@shenet.org. All questions come into the Office of the Public Information Officer are shared with the board and or the superintendent as appropriate. Policy questions or concerns are typically addressed by the board president. Operational questions, concerns are typically addressed by the superintendent or designee. And we have a student here.
Hi there. Alex couldn't be here tonight, so he just wanted to apologize. But I'm here with a few announcements from the Senate. We're not super busy with a lot of events right now because we are working on the election process for next year's Senate members. We changed our thinking on how to have students vote this year. In the past, we've handed out like scanned check-ons to every student in homerooms, but often if students aren't engaged in the voting process, they'll pick the first 8 names, and it's not always fair to all the students running who really care about their place in the Senate. So this year we decided to have Chromebooks set up in lunch periods for all the students to come during their own time to vote for the students that they want to vote for, also be able to read their student bios so that they know a little bit more about the candidates and that who is chosen as the Senate members is a little bit more meaningful for everybody chosen. In addition, as I've said almost every time I've come before you, the anti-bullying event is planned for May. Again, it's very tentative on what it's going to be, but we'd like to have a speak out at the end of the week on bullying in general, to have students share their opinions on what it's like specifically at Shen and what we can do about that to improve the conditions for students. That's about it.
So if you'd like any board participation, or we can even watch.
Oh, sure.
Piece,
we'd love to have you there.
We've participated in the past, and we've watched in the past, and we'd like to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would ask if any residents would like to speak. Megan? Megan's got a form on file already. So.
I'm coming to the microphone.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Megan Della Rosa. I'm the president of the Shenendehowa Teachers Association. And tonight's annual Board of Education meeting is my favorite of the school year. No disrespect to the members of the Board of Education or any of the administrative staff that present on a regular basis, but I really look forward to this meeting more than any others because of the wonderful juxtaposition that we have of two major professional milestones in the careers of our Shenendehowa Teachers Association members, the recommendation of tenure and the acknowledgement of a bright future ahead as a retiree. So I wanted to take this opportunity to share my appreciation with the Board of Education for once again celebrating the professional successes this year of 36 accomplished STA members, 15 choosing to finish their careers here at Shen as they retire in June, and 21 firmly establishing their careers here at Shen as they're recommended this evening for tenure. I always say that by nature, educators are humble, and any limelight that they may seek is not for their own acknowledgement, but rather to shine the light on their students. Well, folks, I'm sorry, but tonight I'm going to start the process of shining the light on you, celebrating you, and these important professional milestones in your careers that should not be overlooked. They're a result of numerous student highlights, and they represent a large compilation of many special events, all of which deserve to be celebrated. So again, I express my gratitude to the Board of Education for not allowing these major professional milestones to come and go unrecognized. Among the 15 STA retirees this evening, they have a combined total of over 220 years of service here at Shenendehowa. During that time, they've served our students and our professional community as teachers in many different capacities, working with all our students across all ends of the spectrum and everyone in between. Their work has also extended beyond the classroom, having served as mentors, club and activity advisors, coaches, committee members, event chaperones, STA leaders, but perhaps most importantly, excellent role models. Before joining us here at Shen, some of our colleagues came to us with experience from other districts or even other fields, and others have given their entire careers here to our Shen families. Their contributions to our district, our students, and our organization, based on their professional and life experiences, are immeasurable and irreplaceable. At the opposite end of the career spectrum tonight, we also acknowledge and celebrate those STA members who will prospectively be granted tenure as teachers, elementary, secondary, core areas, foreign language, speech, and we also have counselors. We're so excited to have them firmly established as members of our professional community here at Shen. As with our retirees, they've also already contributed to our students, our district, and our organization, aside from their service in our classrooms and our schools. They have served and are serving as club and activity advisors, PLC and committee members, event chaperones, role models, and so much more. I look forward to working beside them and have no doubt we will be a better district and a better organization because of them. So in closing, I want to thank the Board of Education again for this opportunity to publicly acknowledge and celebrate our 2016 STA retirees and tenure recipients. To the retirees in the audience, on behalf of the Shenendehowa Teachers Association, we thank you for your countless hours of tireless dedication to our district, our students, and our organization. We truly and sincerely wish each and every one of you all of the best in your upcoming retirement. And to our tenure recipients, on behalf of your colleagues in the Shenendehowa Teachers Association, we thank you for all that you've already contributed to our district, our students, and our organization, and we look forward to continuing our work together for many years to come. We wish you, each and every one of you, our most heartfelt congratulations. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak? If not, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Casey. Just a brief note for board members at your table, in anticipation of the budget proposal being approved by the board tonight to go to a public referendum, is a one-pager. And the significance of that is tomorrow morning we start what we call the roadshow, meeting with transportation personnel at 9:15, high school faculty at 3:05, and then the next day at 7:30 in the morning we're at the Rotary at 7:30, so the roadshow began. Certainly you have the schedule here, and the schedule is also posted on the website, and I share that publicly because for people who may want to hear about the budget, other than probably some of the more internal school meetings, they're more than welcome to attend any of these meetings, particular venues such as the town board meetings and things of that nature. So certainly many opportunities for not only our internal public to know about the budget, but also the community at large to hear what's in the budget, as well as what we will present tonight. So hopefully people in the audience will stay the extra 15, 20 minutes to hear about those proposals that we'll be putting forth to the voters on the 17th. And just one last comment. Today was the start of our, and I typically don't comment on this only because it has been such a high publicity topic, state assessments. Today was the first day of 3 through 8 state assessments, and our opt-out or refusal, I don't use the word opt-out, it's refusal, parents who are refusing to have their students take their assessments, is comparable to last year numbers. A new wrinkle that was placed by the state was the whole notion of on time, and just from anecdotal feedback from several building administrators, the process that we use appeared to be very favorable to what turned out to be, and what we also anticipated, a small handful of students that actually needed a significant amount of time beyond what we would think is a customary amount of time to complete assessment, which was good in that sense of it. But on the same note, we also heard from several that the students felt less pressure because all of a sudden they weren't hear the clock ticking in the back of their minds. They were able to take the assessments without that notion of, oh my God, I'm going to run out of time. So we think those things were favorable for our students, and we'll see what the results will be. But again, to piggyback on a comment that Mr. Presley put forward, as a school district, we have already stood firm that we look at state mandates, state requirements as, quite frankly, as a minimum. As a state school district, we're trying to push our kids beyond the most rigorous benchmarks because we want our students to be as successful as possible once they leave the walls of Shenendehowa. And live up to their greatest potentials. And so we really want to do that piece of it. And so we look at those outside factors, but quite frankly with you, our expectations here in the school district are significantly higher than I would think that any expectation that any external agency will put on us. And we appreciate the parents who support their kids, regardless of whatever decision you make for them. To refuse a test or take the test, we appreciate the support of parents. Because school is an important piece of their life experience, and we want kids to take advantage of it and everything that it represents. So I just want to share that with the board, and clearly today was the first day. We have 3 more days of ELA, 2 more days of ELA, then we get into the math assessments, and we'll see how those things change. But we're trying to depoliticize this process. Not about politics, not about people's personal beliefs. It's about the quality of education we provide to our students, and we want that to be the best experience. And I think Mrs. De La Rosa said it very well when she complimented our teachers. We have tons of dedicated faculty and staff and administrators here, and certainly this board is the epitome of that dedication. All with one focus: provide the best opportunities for our kids, and hopefully people will appreciate that as we move forward as well. So that's my comments for this, and then we'll get into.
Good, thank you. Yeah, and we'll just move right into tenure recommendations. Mrs. Bush?
Good evening, and thank you. Welcome to all our folks that are here tonight, and thank you, Megan, for saying some kind words for all of our folks. We actually have 22, we might have to redo the math, 22 potential tenure recipients. The folks that are being recommended for tenure started with us as new teachers either 2 years or 3 years, depending on if they had tenure in another district, and worked through teacher observations, administrators coming into their classroom for announced and unannounced observations, putting together reflections and the domain for information for professional responsibilities. After their tenure was written by either the building principal or the academic administrator, or in collaboration between the two, the tenure recommendations were reviewed by the Professional Performance Review Committee, which is a group of 5 teachers and 5 administrators, and all the information is reviewed and the recommendations are strongly supported. They're then sent to the board, who also had the opportunity to review them. This is our largest group that we've had in several years with the 22 folks. And we also noticed that in the audience tonight we have family members too. So I hope that you either partake in our refreshments that we have in the back or take them out afterwards for a treat. But it's important to recognize the families too, because we couldn't do it without you. So we appreciate that. So I'd ask that you come up and as I read or say a few words about you, and I try to limit to it just a few words because the tenure recommendations were very well written and captured just a minimal thing of what you guys do in your classroom every day. However, we in fairness to time and in fairness to the 22 folks who are going to do that. So our first one is Joanna Butterfield. Joanna is a high school art teacher. Some of the recommendation information that was written by Mr. Flint and Mr. Roselli said Joanna incorporates ladder framework where one concept leads to another. She's thoughtful, reflective, positive. She has a positive rapport with her students, and she treats her students as artists and individuals. I had the opportunity to meet Joanna's parents prior to this evening, and they were both educators as well. So that's a nice added touch that we can put in here, though. So Joanna's our first person. All right, you got to stay up here. Sorry. Yes. All right. Kira Clark. Kira is high school secondary science. I'm not sure. Kira may not have been able to be here this evening. Okay. We'll still read though. Mr. Flint and Mrs. Lorch wrote her tenure recommendation. Kira is a chemistry teacher. Her students respect her. She's actively engages them in all the learning activities. She holds them accountable for rigorous curriculum and presents it in a way that is understandable for all the student learners in her classroom. So that was Kara Clark. Sophia Delamar. Sophia here? I thought I saw Sophia. Sophia is secondary science. She's grade 7. She joined the CODA staff. Her tenure recommendation was written by Mr. Sean Nett and Mrs. Lisa Kissinger. Some of the things about Sophia that stood out in her tenure recommendation: she uses technology to inspire students. She brings a positive, unique perspective to CODA when discussing interventions for struggling students. We may want to hear more about that later. And she's always encouraging in everything that she does. That's Sophia. Michelle Delwich. Michelle Delwich joined the Gowanus staff as a Spanish teacher, and her tenure recommendation was written by Robin Gowries and Rachel Stead. And some of the things that they said about Michelle: she's vibrant, she uses technology on a regular basis, and she's skilled in eliciting evidence of student understanding in a difficult language. Michelle brought her family tonight as well. All right. Our next person, Celia Gainey. Celia is a counselor, school counselor at High School East. Her tenure recommendation was written by Mr. Donald Flint and Mr. Paul Ripchick. Celia is student-centered, she's professional, she's approachable. Those are just a few words to describe what Celia does in our counseling department. She's brought a lot of things to our counseling department. Ingrid Giso. Ingrid is a kindergarten teacher at Carrigon. Her tenure recommendation was written by Mr. Greg Wing. In her kindergarten environment, she uses a collaborative approach and makes many, many connections with parents, which we all know is very critical, especially at the kindergarten level. She incorporates technology into her classroom. Judith Grenier Martin, French teacher at CODA Middle School. Her tenure recommendation was written by Sean Nett and Rachel Stead. Judy provides high-energy lessons. She presents authentic learning environment to her students. She makes connections with her students. And one of the things that stood out in her tenure recommendation is that she had a student that traveled to Haiti, and she helped him or her, I believe it was her, work on a multimedia presentation to incorporate the cultural awareness for her entire class. So that stood out on her recommendation. Next is Joseph Hubert. Joseph is an elementary teacher at Orangen Elementary School. His tenure was written by Mr. Andrew Hills, our brand new principal, in collaboration with Mr. Ben Roberts, who had observed Joseph. And some of the things that stood out is he has a real cultural awareness of the students in his classroom, and he's instrumental in the Shooting Stars after school program, coordinating that effort for the students at Orangen. Darlene Kern. Darlene Kern is earning her second form of tenure this evening. She started as a special education teacher and was one of our folks that was transferred a couple of times for involuntary transfer. And then she was able to move to Tasago, where she earned a second tenure area in elementary education. She's professional. She's a student advocate. She always uses proactive communication and working with Mr. Pace, and that's the task. No. And she's the student council advisor. So. All right. Allison Leclerc. I'm not sure Allison is here tonight. Allison teaches kindergarten. She's at Scano Elementary School. Her tenure was written by Mrs. Jill Gould. She's engaging. She's actively involved in the school community, and this is her second tenure area as well. She started as a special education teacher. Jane Levy, and maybe you guys want to come on this side, okay? The next group, or have them come around? All right. Jane is a special education teacher at Sago Elementary School. Her tenure was written by Mr. Greg Pace. Jane has a strong knowledge of student instruction. She's demonstrated improvement in instructional practices, and she shares her experiences and her knowledge with her colleagues. Our next tenure recipient, Melissa London, High School West. Melissa is a Spanish teacher. Mrs. Stead and Mr. Flint were very busy with our language teachers this year. Melissa is reflective, she's organized, she uses Google Classroom, and she's passionate about the language and the culture. So, thank you, Melissa. Amy McDonald. Amy is a CODA teacher and 6th grade. Her tenure recommendation was written by Sean Natt and Kathy Sherwin. She's very tech savvy. She uses the Google Classroom. She used video on making inferences and used the Alveus program that is used at the middle schools and incorporated a bullying or anti-bullying lesson and had the students make inferences. She's a mentor to students, so she works with the mentor program at CODA, and her door is always open. She's always available to students. Carrie Mendola-Klett. Is Carrie here? Okay. Carrie is at Sago Elementary School. Her tenure recommendation was written by Mr. Pace, and Carrie, this year, her strength, many strengths, but her strength was making more parent connections and opening up her classroom, and there was a whole list of items of things that she's done to incorporate parents and communicate with parents in the classroom. Right? Amy McGinnis. Amy McGinnis is a school counselor at Kiwanis. Her tenure recommendation was written by Robin Gories and Becky Carmen. Amy, it was described as a fireball, a go-getter. These were interesting comments on tenure record, but I had to put them in. Fireball and a go-getter, a student advocate, and Amy is a proud new mom of a little daughter, Mia. Yeah, about a month? Yeah, 2 months, okay. I got her, I know, it's out of order. Right. We did not forget Susan Haskell. We just aren't very good with alphabetical order in my office, apparently. So if Suzanne would like to come up. Suzanne's a school counselor at High School East. Her tenure recommendation was written by Mr. Don Flint and Mr. Paul Ripchick. She's our special ed transition counselor. She's approachable. She's an active listener. She's actually been in the district for about 14 years. She worked for a different service, as well as a student. And you may have seen Suzanne in different areas with her little, the therapy dog. So the folks really, really like that. So, all right. Okay, so we're almost there. And Andrew Quell. Andrew Quell is a science teacher at Acadia. His tenure recommendation was written by John Burns and Jeannie Lorch. Andrew has earned the respect from his colleagues, even in his first few years of teaching here at Shenendehowa. He's a leader in the department, he's creative, and he has showed expertise, especially in the area of using digital resources in the classroom. Christine Salm. Christine is a Spanish teacher at the high school, and Christine may not be here. Mr. Flint and Mrs. Stead wrote her tenure recommendation. She uses technology every day in the classroom. She's very hardworking, and she brought new ideas to the professional learning communities at the high school. Kelly Ann Smock. Kelly is the literacy specialist at Orangen. Her tenure recommendation was written by Mr. Andrew Hills, and I had the opportunity to actually observe Kelly's class this year as a literacy specialist, and it was a very good opportunity. She provides cultural sensitivity to the classes, she engages the students, and Kelly is responsible, along with our other literacy specialists, for working with all the students in 30-minute sessions in the class to enhance their ELA skills. So, Kelly, congratulations. Tina Stellan. Tina is an AIS English teacher at Acadia. Her tenure recommendation was written by John Burns and Kathy Sherwin. She actively engages the students. She's very organized, and she's willing to participate in many, many activities. As Megan had mentioned before, there's several of the folks that are up here tonight and our retirees participate in a lot of things that go into bringing the student beyond the classroom. Greg Sulz. Greg Sulz is an elementary teacher at Orangen. His tenure recommendation was written by Andrew Hills. He's highly organized. He has a positive classroom. He started the terrific Thursday after-school program for students to engage students in another academic support program after school. He's also one of our coaches. He coaches the baseball team. And Greg Sulz, Orangen. All right. And our last but certainly not least, Elizabeth Turner. Elizabeth is our speech teacher at Acadia, one of our speech teachers at Acadia. Her tenure recommendation was written by Michelle Mylod. She works with our special needs students in the area of speech. She has a strong understanding of the speech and language therapy. Perhaps I should take her class. No. And we appreciate all that she does. So this is the 2016. Yeah,
Okay.
Carrie Madola class.
Okay.
Yeah. So, did I?
So did we miss anybody?
Did I skip anybody? No.
Just shut up.
All right. So that's all right. We will do it again. Kira. Okay. Kira Clark, secondary science, chemistry, and her tenure was written by Mr. Flint and Mrs. Lorch. And the students respect her. You actively engage your students at all times. You hold them accountable for a rigorous curriculum, but you present it in a way that they can understand it, and we appreciate that. All right.
So we love getting these recommendations, and we love shaking your hands, and we love having your picture taken by Kelly. So we're going to, Kelly, how are we going to, why don't you
You guys can
organize
look
it?
closer.
We want to shake their hands,
get
and
out
you want
of
to take a picture.
Shoulder in. You know, shoulder to shoulder.
Oh, shoulder.
Yeah, picture first.
Picture first.
Isn't it a beautiful group? Handsome group as well.
Okay. Why don't we do the receiving line coming this way? Why don't you guys come over here?
So you made the motion first? You did?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, right.
Yes.
do that, sure.
You're standing. Right.
We can stand and vote. This is something new for us. So our agenda was modified. We have a motion, we are looking for a motion to approve the personnel report, including the tenure recommendations. Mary, second Christina. All those in favor? Welcome
Can I just make
aboard.
a comment, Mr. Casey?
You can make a comment,
I want
absolutely.
the teachers to know, I have 2 graduates now of Shen. I want you to know what you do indoors with your students, and it's not just from grade to grade. My freshman just wrote a paper about an experience she had with a teacher in elementary school. It endures, and we really are looking forward to the impact that you have.
Thank you.
It's a board member.
Speak for all of us. Why don't we get the rest of the board over here, we'll do it this way, right? There we go. Thank you. Congratulations.
I guess probably give them a few minutes to.
And we have the retirees. Thank you. Sorry.
So we're going to recognize the retirees too.
Yeah, we're going to do the retirees, very good, yeah.
Do you want to mention that, Bill?
I will.
Or you want me to? Okay,
I'm going to do it.
Exactly, that's exactly right.
So one thing the board will notice, this is a hugging bunch that we've got here. And we're going to move directly from dealing with tenure to recognizing the retirees are here. Jill?
Okay, thank you. We would like to recognize the retirees as well. So if our tenure folks would hang out for just a few minutes, because at some point, probably will be recognized. I'm not sure I'll still be here, but no, but it goes by fast. I think our retirees would speak to that as well. Before I start with the teacher retirees, we have at least two non-instructional folks in the audience this evening that also have retired from Shenendehowa. So I would like to recognize Marie Kashera. And Marie was at the district office, and she's in the special education department, and she worked in many other offices as well. And Pat Bloss, who we will get a certificate for, she has been at Carrigon, and Marie and Pat, will you come on up, please? Thank you. Are there any other of our non-instructional folks that attended this evening? We had several that retired throughout the year, and they were invited back. And Steve Gattano was actually on the board agenda tonight for retirement after 20 years. Pat and Marie, we'll make you a certificate. Okay. Whatever.
She'll go with a final check.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's a name we all know, right,
That's
Marie?
right.
Yeah.
All right.
For a while.
Thank you. And our teacher retirees, some of our folks are here tonight, others are not, but I will just read through the list. If you are here, please come on up so you can be recognized. Eileen Shera. Eileen has been with the district for 20 years, and she's currently at Chango and going to be retiring as an elementary AIS teacher. Beth Coulter. Beth is not here this evening. She is a Gowanna teacher who was with us for 20 years in teaching grade 7 life science. Right. I'll stand out of the way.
Just going to assign Mary to between.
Mary Ann
Oh,
Courier.
okay, I'll do that. Yeah.
Mary Ann Courier is a special education teacher at the high school. She has been with us for 25 years. Melanie DeBerry, grade 5 at Carrigon, has been with us for 20 years. Diane Drzezinski, grade 3 at Orangen, most recently, and she was with the district for 22 years. Okay. Steve Farnell, English as a new language, CODA teacher this year, and he was here for 16 years. Mary Favreau, special education teacher at Orangen for 12 years. Okay. Joellen Hergat, art teacher at Gowanna, 16 years. Bonita Lee, grade 4 at Octay, 23 years. Pat Mickle, is Ed Tisago, 27 years. And maybe perhaps his nickname is going to retire with him as well? The Mr. Pickle for the kids? Maybe not. No, maybe not. No, the kids really look forward to working with you. Francine Pavlik, grade 5, currently at Chango, 16 years. Cindy Scavo, Earth Science, High School West, 32 years. Oh, I'm surprised. She was supposed to be here. We'll find Cindy. Kathleen Schwartz, kindergarten, currently at Orangen, 20 years. Your certificate will be coming. Boy, good thing I'm not doing the awards ceremony. Patricia Wood, fax teacher, family and consumer science, Gowanna, for 15 years. And Kate Cummings, art teacher at Scano, 31 years. Those are our retirees that are going to be joining the retirement section in June. Right.
Marie and Pat, come up.
Oh, Marie and Pat, come on up so we can get your picture, please.
Can you ask?
Come on over this way.
Tonight is a photo.
Yeah.
Kelly significant day.
This right. All right, I'll get in this one, I'll squeeze in this one. Maybe the- Good. Thank you. Okay, congratulations, 31 years. Thank you. You've been at this for 31 years. Another school. I didn't know that. Oh, my gosh. Thank you for everything. Thank you, thank you. Wow. I know. Just have the regular staffing, or you want me to skip? Oh, okay. All right.
Happy night.
Very exciting.
So we're moving back to the budget, right? The retirees are not staying.
They're in winter mode.
Magnetic personality.
Like in winter mode.
Yes, right.
You can open a window.
Feel good, though. A middle-aged woman, he's not good. Right, Mary? Not as bad as last time, I know. He's not good.
Mike's around.
Oh, sorry. Told you, I can't behave.
It's all recorded, too.
Okay. So we'll move on with the rest of our meeting. We've had all this fun to start with, and good news dealing with our employees who have been so supportive of this district over time, and we really look forward to continuing to work with the Tenure folks, and we'll move forward with the presentation on our final budget proposal.
So, thank you very much, Mr. Flint, for staying with us tonight. We appreciate it very much. For the purpose of the board and the public, this will be a rather brief presentation of the budget. We have had several presentations now, and therefore, thank you, Mr. Pace. Appreciate it very much. On the May 17th agenda, as you'll see in the May 17th referendum vote, we have 5 items for the public to act on. The first item being the 2016-17 proposed budget. We'll talk briefly about it tonight. The second item being the bus purchase resolution. We'll also speak to that briefly tonight. The capital construction project presentation, which we're hoping that the voters will approve. The capital reserve establishment, and the Board of Education candidates. Just so for the purpose of the public, petitions for the board are due on April 18th at 5. At 5 o'clock, at that point, we have some sense of who the candidates are for the board. The board clerk, the district clerk, will actually put the names literally in a hat. And we'll have, last year was our internal auditor made a selection in terms of how the names will fall on the ballots. Because people always wondering, how do we place the name on the ballots? And that's actually how it happens. We actually put the name in a bag, and they shake them up, and our internal auditor select, and the first one is the first name, so on and so forth. So that will happen on the morning of the 19th. So 5 o'clock on the 18th is the last day for petitions. We have verified that we have the right number of signatures and residency of those petitioners. And the morning of the 19th, we'll make the selection for the candidates for the board. We have 3 seats running for the Board of Education. So on the 18th, we'll know how many people we actually have running at that time. Just to walk through, highlight the first proposition, and the most important proposition is the proposed budget. This year's budget is $160.3 million. It's important to know that our tax cap limit was 0.78, less than 1%, 0.78. This proposed budget has a tax levy of 0.74. So we're below what we call a very stringent tax cap. Our budget is coming below that tax cap at 0.74. Again, it's important for the public to know because last year the state legislature passed a piece of law that basically said that when districts fall below the tax cap, there's a refund potential for taxpayers. So we certainly, that's not our motivation to have it below the tax cap, but it's certainly a point of information for the public to know and realize as well. When we look at some of the details of the budget and to really put in perspective, the budget increase will cause, we use the $250,000 as what we call the average house value within the school district, recognizing there's some lower and some higher. And at that $250,000 assessed valuation, that what we project the increase in the budget to be is about $10. And when you think about it, it's pretty minimal. We always use the term flatline budget. This is truly one of those flatline budget. This is recognizing that some people will actually see a reduction in their tax bills, and some people will see a slight adjustment in their tax bill. When you think about the potential reimbursement back from the state, most people will see a zero or negative increase or decrease, if you will, in their overall tax levy as a result of this budget. So not only there's good news program provision, but it's also good news from a taxpayer perspective as well. It's important to point those things out. And the detail below shows that the budget is about 2.1% increase, tax levy of 0.74, about a $10 increase on the average assessment of $250,000. So this really gives you in essence what this budget is truly about in terms of addressing programs, but also being responsible to our taxpayers. The second resolution is a bus replacement. Each year we have a long-term bus replacement process, and our goal is to have the average age of our buses, depend on the buses, from 7 to as high as 12 years. What we call industry standards. Industry standards about 10 to 12. And so we want to keep our buses in that range for the industry standards, and so we have a replacement cycle. This proposition calls for the purchase of 21 buses at a cost of about $2.1 million. The impact of that is not felt until the 17-18 budget year because of how when we purchase, when we finance, and the impact of it. Again, very negligible impact on the budget itself. And this is something that we try to do to keep our fleet up to standards as we move forward. The third referendum that the voters will be asked to act on is the capital project. We're proposing a $16.6 million project that addresses a lot of items from our facility study. The district engaged every 5 years per mandate in a 5-year facility study. This project tried to address what we call the priority 1 and priority 2 items as a part of that study, as well as some other components which I'll briefly walk through here with the board as I go through some other details of it. The other three other components of it, one is the modernization of the high school library, high school east library to be more specific. That process is taking place now. Dr. Wood is spearheading that process with Mr. Flint. A third component is the signage. The board approved a signage plan, and we want to execute that signage plan. That's not only talking about external signs, but also internal signage, as well as directional signage. Another component of that is playground enhancements, looking at all 8 elementary schools and assessing various needs in terms of how do we enhance some of the playground with a particular focus on handicap accessible equipment. That's something that we really want to focus on when we look at those, look at 8 elementary schools. So we're excited about this project because the project, as you see here, something that we've been planning for a number of years, because our debt service payment has been declining and scheduled to decline because of us refinancing debt over the years to try to minimize the debt exposure. For the typical person we're talking about, it's equivalent to your house mortgage payment. It's what people do, refinance to get a lower interest rate. We have been refinancing a lot of our debt to restructure our debt. So as we bring this project on, the impact, quite frankly, on the budget will be no impact on the budget. Subsequently, no increase as a result on the tax levy for bringing this project on board. We're pretty excited about that because when we look at the debt service, even including this project, is still scheduled to reduce on average about $640,000 a year. It's important for the board because we have a 15-year capital construction plan lined out, and the whole notion of that as we bring different projects on over the course of the next 15 years, again, the budget impact stays flatline, subsequently no increase in the tax levy as a result of bringing those projects online. So we're pretty excited about this particular referendum, not only for what it does in terms of facilities, but also the fiscal, minimal fiscal impact for our taxpayers as well. The fourth proposition is the establishment of a reserve. again, this is a part of that long-term thinking, recognizing that how do we try to anticipate the ebbs and flows of society, the ebbs and flows of the financial market, and recognizing that there will be ebbs and flows. How do we try to soften that blow, if you will? And using that as Mr. Presley articulated, this is kind of like a shock absorber. As we're driving down the road, sometimes it's very smooth, other times it's very bumpy. How do we try to minimize the impact on taxpayers? So establishing the reserves gives us the capacity over the next 20 years. It's a long-term reserve over the next 20 years to try to build a reserve for the sole purpose of construction project purposes. This is a reserve that's kind of unique. The voters have to approve to establish it, and the voters have to approve to use different amounts of it for specific construction-related projects. So it's a reserve that ties again with our 15-year capital project plan. We do it 20 because, again, we want to be more forward-thinking with this piece of it. But this is one of those things that no immediate impact on taxpayers, and quite frankly, as we move forward, to become a buffer for taxpayers in terms of seeing increases as a result of bringing projects on. So we are excited about the debt service impact and in the reserve impact that we will be able in the future to do some really neat things to enhance the quality of our facilities with, quite frankly, minimal or no impact on our taxpayers. And that's something that not only we are saying it, but we can demonstrate it over and over and over, and we want to be able to have the capacity to demonstrate it over and over and over to our voters. So we're pretty excited about this proposition as well. And the last proposition is I started out saying the budget was the most important from a fiscal piece of it, but certainly from the overall direction of the school district, the governance of the Board of Education is vital, it's critical. Absolutely critical in terms of, we have seen it, we know that high-functioning boards usually lend to high-functioning school districts, and vice versa. Dysfunctional boards often lend to low-functioning school district. There's a reality to that. There's a correlation to those things, and we're very fortunate that we have some strong board members. We've had strong board members, so the election of the 3 seats on the board will be critical to us. We have 2 incumbents running. Mr. DeLallo and Mr. Gilbert are running again, and we'll see who else will be running for the board after the 18th. So this is also an important proposition for the voters to pay attention to, because the governance of the board truly dictates the direction, the tone and the tempo of where we go, how fast and how far we go is dictated by the Board of Education. So we're certainly looking forward to that proposition. And the last piece, just want to highlight again the 3 referendums. The vote is on May 17th. As in past years, we start at 7 a.m. and end at 9 p.m. This year, for the first time, we'll be using the electronic voting machines. Many of our voters are accustomed to it because the town has used them for years, and we're using it for the first time by law. We have to, for the first time, use them this year. So we'll be using those electronic voting machines. Our rules for eligibility are the same in terms of who's eligible to vote on the budget, and we strongly encourage people to come out. We start our roadshow presentation tomorrow morning to really try to inform the public, internal as well as external public, about what's the ins and outs of the budget, but we certainly want to encourage people to come out. We feel we have a budget that addresses our needs. We feel the capital project is addressing our future needs as well as a reserve, and certainly we look forward to having a strong governance team as we move forward. And all those things are, quite frankly, predicated on the voters' desire to come out and hopefully cast a vote that they think is supportive of their respective opinions. So any questions from the board before you later on asked to approve the budget resolution for
I just
17?
would point out that at the last meeting, last week, we approved resolutions for all these, but with the caveat that we would come back on the base budget itself. And that, actually, the plans that you presented to us, we didn't have to go into detail because they were the same details from last week, right? They were carried forward. We anticipated right on the gap elimination, and so we're in the same spot as we were last week. That's a good spot.
Yeah.
How about other comments?
I got a quick question, and I actually had this question yesterday. The electronic voting machines. So the residents will fill out the little circles and feed it in, or it's all done on the machine?
No, it's the paper ballots.
Okay.
They bubble in.
Yep.
And then they go to the machine and feed it in. Same process. I know the town of Clifton Park has done it, because I've done it as a voter here in the town of Clifton Park. It's a fairly easy process, but for people who have never done it, it's going to be different. But it's actually a fairly easy process to transition. So we'll see. For us as a school district too, we are preparing, because in terms of how many paper ballots we actually need, how many people are going to show up, and so we're looking back on our historical count, and quite frankly, we're probably going to go over the past 7 years and say what was the highest number of people Actually, they voted and add some, so there's a potential that we may have way more ballots than we need, but we'd rather have that problem than not enough ballots for people to vote on. And we'll also try to put some information out to the public, but it's really hard to explain in detail of that process other than we'll have people available to assist folks with not only the filling out, but also the submission into the machine itself.
I have a question also. Looking at the tax cap levy, or tax levy cap, quite a significant shift from last year to this year. And I know it's part of a complicated formula, but to put it in layman's terms, is there any way of forecasting if that trend is going to be continuing? And if so, where are we going to wind up?
Say this way, if I was able to forecast that, I'll be like multi-billionaire because I could forecast the market. Unfortunately, and I say very unfortunate, I think it was a very unfortunate thing that the legislature did by attaching the tax cap to not only the CPI, because people think consumer price index, there are many types of CPIs. The one that they attach it to is one that has a tendency, it's hard to predict. And so as a result, last year the CPI was here, this year the CPI is here, and quite frankly, as we stand here today, we know the national election is going to have a huge impact on the economy for next year and beyond. And so it depends on, quite frankly, the tone and the mood of the country. And after November, that's going to impact the CPI. So all of a sudden, the CPI is not even necessarily a truly mathematical issue. It's an issue that's impacted by perception. It's a perception of people think about this country, perception of other countries think about this country, how we think of other countries, all those things that drive the marketplace. And that's what makes it so difficult, because as we stand here, we always do a 3-year forecast in our budget. And the big trump card for us is what do we use for that? We don't even have enough history, so to speak, to say the average of the past 3 or 4 or 5 years is this, because it has been very much like that. That's one big mystery piece of it. The second piece of it is that the state has a factor that they call the assessed growth factor, and we used to think it was about bricks and mortars, how many new buildings are being constructed within the school district. This year, I'm a little bit skeptical about that because we have a lot of new bricks and mortars within the larger Shenendehowa school district, but our growth factor didn't reflect what I thought would be a higher growth factor. So there's even some concern about those figures that's being provided to us in terms of what's the date or the date of the data that they're using to make those determinations. And so it's really hard to predict, and that's what makes the budget process so difficult. And subsequently, we really just focus on what we can control. We can control our expenditure trends. We can control how we best utilize our dollars, and hopefully those things align with our capacity to generate revenues. So it's a very difficult part of the process.
Mary.
Go back to the voting process for a second and the new machines and something that you said about people will be available to assist. And if you could just explain who those people are and the degree to which they assist, because I know that there have been other circumstances in other districts and throughout there's been a question about the integrity of the ballot. So
in past years, the board approved a cadre of voting inspectors, people who have worked for the district in some cases decades as voting inspectors. And this year, because we're getting the machines directly from the county has a list of voting inspectors that go through very specific training with them. And so essentially, we are almost contracting, if you will, with the county to say, give us X number of machines and X number of individuals to work the vote. So to some degree, we're relying on the degree that those people are trained by the county because we're not training those individuals ourselves. Yes, there's a lot of scrutiny with elections because clearly we don't want to have anyone influencing how people vote at that time. The direction is probably more simple of, okay, take your ballot, go into the little square thing where you're in there by yourself privately, and you bubble your sheets in, and there's some simple directions such as make sure you bubble within the lines kind of thing, very simple type thing. And then the direction in terms of how to, in fact, I heard it doesn't matter which end you put into the machine, it's going to register it regardless. And so those are some of the things that we want to make sure that people realize the process is actually very simple.
So it's like state testing.
Yeah, it's a very simple process, much simpler than state testing. It's a very simple process, and we certainly want to emphasize to people it's a very simple process. But every year, we have people who are voting for the first time. We have students who turn 18 and voting for the first time. And so we know that's a significant experience, and so we want to make sure that people don't feel pressured in that experience and make it a very positive experience for them, because we want people to vote. Voting is a civic, in fact, probably the greatest civic responsibility that we have. And so certainly we are privileged in a democratic society to be able to do it, and we want people to come out and do it and walk out of there thinking, wow, this wasn't too bad at all. So we're looking forward to that. It's a learning experience for us too. It's going to be our first time. But I've spoken to a lot of school districts who have done it, who did it last year and the year before, and they didn't think the process was difficult at all. So we're banking on having a very similar experience here at Shen.
I was just going to say, I really appreciate the fact that you're doing the roadshow. You know, if there's a trend line on something, the trend line is the number of voters has gone down over the last several years here. We've had budgets that have been very close to flat line, and that usually is a reflection of that voting piece. We'd like to have more people vote, right?
Yep. Mr. Turk, here.
I wasn't here to comment the last time that the presentation was made and so forth. And I just wanted to make it clear that the district is not where it is as a consequence of any accident. This is a carefully, long, thought-out process. And it not only puts us in good stead to be healthy going forward this year, but subsequent years, obviously subject to variables we have no control over. But nonetheless, we are as prepared as we can possibly be. And there's a consistent philosophy. It is not only to protect the financial health of the district, but the assets of the district. The referendum is not just to protect, but it is to enhance the potential or the capacity of the district to grow, not only in numbers, but in offerings, but in quality. When we replace buses, it's the same sort of thing that we're trying to have a reliable, safe system with a minimal effort made to maintain the fleet. In other words, when I say that, I'm talking about the fact that, yes, we repair them on a regular basis, but we're trying to get the fleet at a certain age so that we don't get to a point where there's a takeoff, shall we say, of the cost of maintaining the fleet. So all of this is built into the budget. The new capital reserve is, again, another mechanism to provide stability and soundness and not only protect the district and its residents from financial shock, but to preserve the quality of education and to give the kids the best education we can possibly do. So I'm wholeheartedly in favor of this budget as it's been presented.
Thank you.
Any additional comments?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Casey.
We'll move on to Mrs. Carmen. Policies and regulations for first reading.
Good evening. Tonight, oops, I grabbed the wrong one. So tonight we have for you the following policies for first reading. And the first one, typically all of them are instructional policies, but the first one is student grading, information system access and modification. That's a brand new one. Thank you. That's a brand new one. And then all the other policies that follow are policies that we've currently have had that have been modified due to either our practices or, and some of them have been merged.
How about any questions or comments on those?
On the 7217, so I understand this is sort of coming about from what people are finding out is that there's a better practice, but today, what is our current practice on grading information? Do we today have good confidence in our grading information?
This captures on paper what we do.
Okay.
And it's a very good question, Mr. Presley. And just to kind of take a step beyond that, across the country, there are grading scandals every time you open up a paper. And so we have been very, very exact in terms of what we want people to do. And while we have been very exact in practice, what we wanted to do was to codify it. So there's no reason why people don't know. Not only, when I say people, not only staff, but also the public. So people don't have to wonder what's our process. And so that's why the board policies become so important, because it's a public document. And so people can make their reference to it. They can see the forms that we have when a parent wants to appeal a grade in a class. There's a process for that. So we wanted to make sure we have those things in practice and not having people guessing what do we do as a school district. So our concerns weren't necessarily one of we're not doing it right versus one of let's make sure we document what we're doing so people are very clear about what we're doing.
Just a point of order, I have some questions on the policies for second reading. Will you be coming back up?
Yes.
Coming back.
Yes.
Coming back,
Yep.
yeah.
Are there any other questions for first reading?
I should say, just in terms of transparency, as we looked at processes here, as it relates just to this, that these after they're moved by the policy committee and put on our agenda, they're also posted on the district website, so they're available for anyone to look at from the public side as well.
Once they're approved, once they go through the second reading, Kelly posts them.
I thought, I'm going to stop.
For the board, yeah, on the agenda for you guys,
Yeah, so
yes,
in the-
correct, I'm
Yep,
sorry,
okay.
for the public.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep.
We'll have you back. So these will be on for action items in May, at our May business meeting, right? Okay. Good. Thank you. We have consent items. We're going to do those individually just because I know some board members have missed a board meeting or so and may not want to vote. That's their choice. But so the first consent item is a treasurer's report. Any questions on that, or can I have a motion to accept it? Jim? Second, Todd? All those in favor? Treasurer's report accepted. We have minutes from March 8th. Can I get a motion on those? Bob, second. Todd? Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Abstain? I think
Abstain.
Jim
Yes.
abstained, yes. March 15th, minutes. Can I have a motion on those? Christina, second. Jim? All those in favor? Any abstain? No. And March 29, can I have a motion? Jim, Mary? All those in favor? Abstain? Two abstains, okay. We're through that. We move on to action items. The first business item is adoption of the 2016-2017 school budget. And what we actually have is just a proposition, a resolution setting the amount at $166,308,680. That was the number we looked at last time. Can we have a motion to adopt that? Mary, second. Todd, any additional questions or comments?
We're voting on all of the propositions.
We voted on the last,
the budget.
yeah, just on that one. We voted on all of them, and this one we voted on it, but we said we would come back on the number this
Gotcha.
week. All those in favor? Unanimously approved. And we'll move on to the next item, which is the property tax report card. Could I have a motion on that? Christina? Second, Jim? Questions or comments?
Just a comment, I was, very surprised, I guess, by how low the CPI is, 0.12%. My goodness. It's sort of a reflection of what we're getting on our savings accounts these days.
Yeah. And for those of us who draw Social Security, it's a reflection of what we're not getting from Social Security, too. Isn't that right, Gary? Yes. All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, we have a bid for interscholastic sports supplies. Could I have a motion on that? Todd, second. Christina? Questions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, we have the contract with the College Board. This is a decision we made last year to offer College Board to every student. We need a motion for that. Gary, second. Bob, all those in favor? Motion carries. Contract to extend Pops and Naviance. Can I have a motion for that? Christina, second. Jim? Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. We have donations. $800 and a ping pong table, and they're not related. So with, and then item 7, scholarships and local grant donations. Let's do those together. We'll do those with appreciation. Could I have a motion on those? Mary? A second, Christina? All those in favor? Motion carries, and we move on to Mrs. Mylett. How are you, sir?
Good evening. I have the special education recommendations for this year and beginning for next year.
Thank you. So can we have a motion on that, and then we'll see if we have any questions or comments. Christina, second, Jim? Any questions or comments? Thank you for all the work and the work of the staff putting these together. We know it's a lot of work. All those in favor? Motion carries. We've done personnel already. We'll invite Mrs. Curran back to handle second reading policies and procedures. When she came out before, she was prepared for this already.
So we did all of these? That was part of what we approved earlier? Okay.
So let's get a motion to move the policies and procedures, and then we'll get into discussion or questions, okay? So can I have a motion on item 8D? Yes. Mary? Thank you. Second, Jim? Comment, questions? Jim, I know
I
you.
have sort of similar questions on 3 different policies, but policy 8130, equal education opportunities. The highlighted items are the only things that are changing, right? And then the description there in the policy, I'll call them definitions. Do these all come from DASA, or is this language that the committee has chosen?
So say it again, Mr. Freeman.
Specifically, it's in the first paragraph.
Yes, those are right out of the DASA
Right
regulation.
out of DASA, okay.
Yes.
And then, secondly, on policy 8241, patriotism, citizenship, and human rights education. Am I correct in assuming that all those classes will be instructed by our professional staff and not outsiders?
Yes, internally, correct.
Great.
And typically, they're done in the social studies class segments.
But that includes the human rights
Yeah,
issues and
so
stuff.
in different, should I say, different classes, different times, different pieces. So yes, so it's not like one person doing all of them. So
No, I understand.
Yes,
But no outside group.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And then third, policy 8242, civility and character education. There's an added item just under the section where it says instruction and character education shall include the principles of, and there's a listing in F, the highlighted area. Is that in addition to what is mandated in DASA?
Actually, it was a wording, I think it said something like kids. The wording was a little awkward, so we just clarified the wording, or should I say contemporize the wording. I don't have the original wording with me here. But these groups didn't change. I think it was made a reference to kids, and I don't know the specifics, but it was very kind of awkward wording that we just wanted to contemporize it. But again, the categorization that you see here have been the categorization that we typically have in all our policies in terms of the different subgroups. We did not pull this, we didn't change this per se, other than change that wording. So I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, I guess what I'm asking, what's the source of
So
that?
when we look at policies, we look at combination of things. Yes, DASA drives a lot of the designation piece of this policy.
Right.
What typically we also have, and even if you open some of these other policies, sometimes we have the reference to we have right here, the sexual education law that drives the background, if you will. And in many cases, either when we develop policies internally, or if we get policies from, everyone is a BOCES policy service, or either if we consult with our attorney, we don't try to necessarily mimic every word of the law. We try to figure out how do we look at the law, legal reference, and then translate it into actionable language, so to speak. Does that make some sense? So all these policies are grounded in either DASA law or 801 education law.
I understand that they're grounded there, but I guess I'm wondering where the wording came from. Did it come right out of?
No. So this wording, we know that we modified because it had what I call some casual reference. I wish I just had the other version for you. If you go back to.
Kelly has it right there.
yeah.
That's what I was just going to say, if we had it
So
on
we
the
can look at
website.
it. It'll make sense to you in a second. A good question, though.
That's what's currently, that's the current policy.
So the current language, that F, if you see what's on F now, I'm going to read what's in our policy now. Says civility and relationships of people of different races, wage, national origin, ethnic groups, religious, physical, mental, sexual. And so what we did, relationships to all people, including those. And so that's where the difference, because one had the policy more inclusive versus limited only to that grouping. So the difference is in relationship to all people, including, and then the listing that you see there.
So the listing hasn't changed?
The listing hasn't changed.
Okay.
And one I was referring to, we had a reference to kids, and we tried to take out what we call casual language, having more policy language. So the listing hasn't changed. And this was one of those, and just a great comment, because what you'll see, when the policy review committee is good about trying to have language that's broader, if you will, in terms, what I mean by that, this is a perfect example, including but not limited to. We use that term quite often in the policy because there are circumstances that we may not necessarily at this moment think about that may impact policy. And so from a board perspective, it gives the board the ability to say, you know what, is this something that we want to discuss more, or we want to see included as a part of this broader policy language as well. So that's where that one change. And we should have highlighted this in relationship to all people, including. That's truly the real piece that was changing in language.
Okay.
So for you're right, for the future purposes, we'll highlight that, so you want to make the assumption that everything was changed. Good catch.
Additional comments or questions? So we have a motion. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to public comments. If anyone from the public would like to speak, we'd invite you now. Seeing none. Before we adjourn, just to call out when our next meetings will be. We're meeting on Tuesday, April 19th. It's warmer, the sun is to the snow is gone. April 19th at 7 o'clock here. It actually counts as a business meeting, even though it's the second meeting of the month, because we're doing the vote on the BOCES budget. And perhaps candidate, I'm not sure. Yeah, candidates, and candidates. And then on May 10th, we have a meeting that's combined with a business meeting and a budget hearing. That budget hearing is mandated by law to be held within that time frame. As you know from tonight, we've already adopted a budget, and it's not something, we can receive comments, but the budget isn't going to change based on those comments 10 days before the budget. So with those announcements, look for a motion to adjourn. Second, Christina. All those in favor? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much.
All right.